Tonight, Issues searches for answers in a missing mom mystery. Julianne Gonzalez vanished into thin air 6 months ago. Her estranged husband, George de la Cruz, was the very last person to see her. Julie was at his Austin home the day she disappeared. Police now suspect she was killed, and they are focusing squarely on George. They have named him a person of interest. They've told us he is no longer cooperating with this investigation. George's attorney joins me tonight. He wants to set the record straight. Did the blood and tissue samples collected at George's house come from Julie? Why was he buying things with his estranged wife's debit card after she disappeared? George insists he has no clue what happened to Julie. He was a guest on Issues back in April.
I understand they suspect me because I was the last person. And like I said, if anyone sees someone, of course they're going to be a suspect. And like I said, I'll be willing to do anything. Lie detector, they can search my house, tear it apart. If they do, they can do that. They can actually put up a police to track me down everywhere. Like I said, I have nothing to hide, and I'm here. I'm not running away.
All right.
I'm trying to help.
I want to welcome back George's attorney, Patrick Fagerberg. Patrick, thank you for rejoining us here on Issues. Last time you were on Issues, you acknowledged that George did in fact use Julie's debit card the day she vanished. Now, how do you explain that?
Well, first of all, let me explain what happened that day. His day, hour by hour, if you would allow me to do that. I think it'll all make sense.
Go ahead.
Thank you for having me back.
Sure.
He wakes up in the morning. His older sister takes his two younger sisters to school. She comes back at about 8:45. He then takes his older sister to school, comes back home, and prepares Layla for Julianne Gonzalez to pick her up. Julianne Gonzalez shows up at about 10:45, 11 o'clock, and at that point decides not to take Layla and asks George if he could keep her for the weekend and she would pick him up sometime later. George says, that's fine. What's wrong? She says, I have things to do. George then asks Julianne, would you go to Walmart and buy some diapers and some wet wipes because I don't have it, I'm broke. She says, I don't have time, but take my credit card or debit card and I will get it from you later in the afternoon. George says, fine. George prepares Layla. He walks outside. He sees his neighbor Joe across the street. This is about 11:15. He goes over and chit-chats with Joe for about an hour. So now we're about 12:15. He goes to Walmart. He kind of window shops, buys a few things, buys a shampoo, buys the wet wipes, buys a video card for himself.
Okay, I get it.
Then there's a video on his way out where he's putting Layla in the shopping cart. He takes her to the McDonald's in the Walmart, buys her lunch at 2:23. That's when the purchase was made. Then leaves there, goes to pick up his 7- and 9-year-old sister from school at 2:45. He picks them up. They see that Layla had McDonald's and they wanted to eat as well. So he takes them to McDonald's and there's a purchase at 2:54 with Julianne's debit card. He goes home. He either gets a call or receives a call from Julianne at 3 o'clock. And she says, hey, can I come get my credit card? I'll be there at 4. He says, 4 won't work because I have to go pick up my oldest sister back from school at 4 o'clock. So he says, I will leave the credit card in the mail with the receipt. She says, that's fine. He leaves about 3:45, goes to pick up Liliana, the 17-year-old, comes home at 4:30. His mom comes home at 5:30. They hang out. He goes to Best Buy with Layla and a cousin, comes back at 8.
All right, look, you know, you could probably spend an hour doing this. This show, we do have a time limit. I think you've made a point. I think you've made a point. You're saying he has an airtight alibi, okay? I understand what you're saying. And let me just ask you this question.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Okay, let me interrupt one other thing. He was not the last person to see her. She was seen by the neighbor, Jesse, who's known her for a long time, at 2:30 that afternoon at his house. And then later that evening, late in the evening, the late-night clerk at the Walgreens, where she left her car, he saw her. So he was not the last person to see her.
Why do you think cops have named him a person of interest?
He's a person of interest because he's obviously close to her. Obviously, the explanation with the credit card, he's the closest person to her, and that's where you always look. A good police agency looks
cops
close
are saying
and goes
he's not
outward.
cooperating anymore.
That's not correct. As a matter of fact, like I said last time, I spent 3 hours with the detectives. I called the detective today. Any questions they have, I have been answering and trying to help them solve this case.
What about him? What about
is,
him talking to them?
He is absolutely cooperating. I again.
When's the last time you talked to the cops?
The last time he did, last time I did. Last time I left a message was
No, last
today.
time he did.
Again, Jane, anybody who is a defense attorney would not allow their client to talk to the police. If they did so, they should not have a bar license. So it has nothing to do with him not wanting to talk. It is me saying I will provide any information you want.
I understand. I want to give you a chance to clear the air on some other key points. Investigators say they searched George's house, and an affiliate, a CBS affiliate in Austin, is reporting that a search warrant shows they collected droplets of blood, human tissue, hair, and fibers, and that there were signs of an altercation. What do you say to that?
No, that's incorrect, because if you look at the search warrant, what the search warrant is looking for on any homicide case, they're looking for blood droplets, they're looking for tissue. That's what they're looking for. They didn't find any of that. The return on the search warrant is what's interesting. They found a old gym card that obviously she'd lived there for 6 months. They found an old gym pass there, and that's it. And then the card that he bought at Walmart.
So you're saying they did not find any blood or tissue in his house?
No, absolutely not. They were looking for it, but they didn't find it. And if you read the return on the warrant, the search warrant says, yeah, we are looking for this. And obviously on a homicide, that's what you're looking for. But they didn't find any.
All right, listen, I think you've made a very good case for your client. One last thing. Give us one last thing, because we're out of time.
Okay, Jane, I just want to say, I understand that Miss Soto is going through a hard time because her daughter is missing.
That's the mother of the missing.
And what I'm trying to do is bring these families together, and because we have a young daughter that lost her mom, or her mom is missing, and our family want the Soto family to be involved with their daughter.
Okay,
but as long as they believe that my client had something to do with their disappearance, that can't happen. And I'm doing my best efforts to try to get these families back together. And again, there's misinformation out there all the time. On the last show, you said that my client moved. Yeah.
Quite a few minutes now to clear the area. To clear the air.
I know, but just one more point that's bothered me, if you don't mind.
Okay, sure.
At one point, you said that after Julie went missing, that my client moved into her place. That's not true. Julianne lived with my client's mom for about 6 months. She moved out. My client has been living with his mom for 2 years. So that's another misinformation.
All right, well, you've cleared the air, and I'm really glad you did.
I hope, and when you have experts on here, I wish they would look at the facts, and apparently nobody wants the truth. They just want to come on here.
You're a very good defense attorney, and if I'm in trouble, I'm calling you, my friend. Thank you so much, Patrick.
Well, I hope you're not in trouble, but you can call me.
All right, thank you. Attorney for George De La Cruz. Thank you, sir. All right, we're going to get some analysis now from our two experts standing by. Deborah Opry, family law attorney. What do you make of it?
Well, he has cooperated. He took a lie detector test. He was out there. The lawyer's on your show tonight. I do not think this lawyer should be talking as to what he's talking about. I do not think the police should be putting things out there. I think this is one of those runaway cases where no charges are filed, and the attorney is giving his best efforts to protect his client, but I really think he should not be talking and giving a timeline like this, because he's going to box his client in. Do I think this Mr. De La Cruz did the crime? I really do not. I think the police might have made up their minds already, and they're pursuing any evidence they can to lock him in. I just don't think the attorney should be on the show doing this. I don't think Mr. De La Cruz should be speaking anymore. But Jane, I do believe that this young man may in fact be innocent.
Dr. Ellen Lippman, psychiatrist, your analysis of this case.
Well, I'm struck by the fact that in a public forum, Mr. De La Cruz was willing to say, take my place apart. And the fact that he is willing to say that, to give such powerful evidence of cooperation, really does make me wonder whether Deborah is right about this, whether there is a kind of pre-conclusionary state on the part of the police. Now look, we don't have all the facts that they do, and obviously that question is always active, but I am wondering whether this is someone who is being found guilty in the absence of facts. I don't think Deborah is right that it was a mistake to lay out this much information, because obviously when they do begin to work with the police, this can really become a problem.
Well, I don't know about that, because he's taken a lot of heat in public. He went on Dr. Phil and did a polygraph, which he fails because he says, well, I was doing my best. Yeah, no, he said I failed because
Jane,
I felt bad that she disappeared, but you know, at a certain point you have to stand up for somebody. So I don't fault the attorney for speaking up. He's citing facts
agree
that are
with
in the
you.
record.
Well, you're the host of the show. I just think as a lawyer, it's not a good idea.
as well as I do. Jane, you know as well as I do that, of course, it is the job of an attorney to give a vigorous defense. However, number one, you also know as well as I do that polygraph evidence is not admissible in most courts.
This will be forensics.
And secondly, he laid out too much evidence. He could have defended without so much evidence.
Gotta leave it right there. Lindsay Lohan's dad, Michael Lohan, up